Hey everyone, this is a clip from a recent episode of the Men of Steel podcast where we talk about Superman and Superman adjacent topics. If you enjoy this clip, check out the podcast. You can find it at certainpov.com or wherever you get your shows. But yeah, so let's start with just like a general conversation about who the character is. So obviously he has close ties with Shazam, and by that I mean both the wizard, but also then the property and some, however you want to say the character. He normally is depicted in a black version of the same basic costume as Captain Marvel, and that's because he is a champion of the wizard Shazam. He is supposed to be an earlier champion in the history of characters being given this power, which includes Shazam. Most versions of Shazam are depicted as having been gifted powers by the gods and having a similar transformation mechanism between his fully mortal form and his empowered form. And there's a transmutational effect when you gain these powers that change things like your longevity, your physical appearance in both, like the obvious way, like Captain Marvel becomes an adult, but there is a little bit of a question of, is he becoming an adult version of him, or is he becoming an adult version of something else? Like, there was this idea in the 90s that he was actually turning into his father. He was literally invoking the visage of his father as this protector type character. So that, there's a transformational aspect to it, but he's still fundamentally Billy transformed through this magic kind of as a conduit, because then there's a conversation of, is he actually Billy in terms of personality? Like, is he Billy but grown? Is it big, or is he his own character as Captain Marvel, even if that transformational effect is occurring? Long story short, Black Adam has something kind of similar going on. So the idea was that Black Adam, who was introduced way back, actually I have the date in front of me, it was 1945. So it goes back a pretty long way in the comic book pantheon. But the twist on that one is that Black Adam actually only had one appearance back in the Golden Age, because he dies at the end of his first appearance, and was not brought back. And when Captain Marvel folded in 1950-ish, wherever, 50, maybe a little bit later, maybe it was 53, whenever the whole Fawcett collapsed situation occurred because of the DC lawsuits, Black Adam had not reappeared in any meaningful way. It was only when DC later bought the property and brought him back that he was reintroduced as a big character. So the idea was, old school Black Adam was an Egyptian character who was empowered as an adult by the wizard Shazam and became the champion Teth Adam at the time, or Mighty Adam, pardon me, in the old comics. So he was Mighty Adam. He was the hero of Egypt. He was just a regular superhero, and he had the exact same situation as Shazam, although a different pantheon of gods. So it was Shu, Haru, Aten, Zehuti, Aman, and Mayhem, I think, is the breakdown on that one.
Your guess is good as
they're all
mine
Egyptian
right
gods.
now.
Yes. No matter what, I would, Shu, Horus, Aman, Zehuti, Aten, Mayhem. Sorry,
Gazutai.
It's like that song of Prince of Egypt. Playing with the big boys now.
Well, and so it's the same basic idea that he's getting these attributes from these deities, and it's a fun flex of Egyptian pantheon, that's cool. Long story short, though, this character, Mighty Adam, once he gets his powers and he saves Egypt from whatever forces they're fighting, immediately is well, obviously I'm your king now, right? And they're like,
I guess.
Did we agree to this? And it's well, I guess we have to, right? And then it's yep, I'm the king. And Shazam is hey, that's literally what I said don't do. And instead flings him to the farthest corner of the universe. And so this is in ancient Egyptian times. And so ever since that point when that occurred, Black Adam has been flying back from the farthest corner of the universe. And he finally arrives in 1945. And so he shows up, and the Marvels confront him. And at this point, we have gotten to our classic Marvel family of Billy, Mary, and Freddy, and also Uncle Dudley, Uncle Marvel. And at this point, the Lieutenants Marvel are less seen figures in this all. The Shazam family is very big. even before we got to the modern day Shazamily, there's always been a lot of characters in this whole roster of individuals.
Is it bigger than the Bat family?
I mean, they're the ones who started the idea of a family. Batman had Robin as the first sidekick.
Can't be
but
family.
Was that your Vin
God,
Diesel voice?
Yeah, that's right.
God, can you imagine like Captain Marvel reinterpreted through the lens of Fast and the Furious?
Oh my gosh.
I guess that's not that crazy because of Aquaman, Justin Lin.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, true.
It could happen.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's entirely possible. But so
Well,
Black
not
Adam
really.
shows
They
up.
got beef now. the Rocket and Vin Diesel got beef. It's probably not going to happen.
Well, I'm just saying through the lens, like it just shot because like I'm not saying recast him as Vin Diesel, but if it became very much, it's just like, hey, you're messing with my family. You're messing with my Shazamily.
I would watch that. I'm not going to lie. I would watch that.
Yeah, no, I would watch that a billion times over. But anyway, so Black Adam finally arrives. It took him from, at that point, what, like 8,000 years to fly from, depending on, I don't know what point in Egypt. You know, the whole, like, the Egyptian, like, the Bronze Age Egypt that we understand to exist went for 6,000 years, and, like, we very easily blur the details of, like, what happened in the Old Kingdom versus the Middle Kingdom versus the New Kingdom, and, like, the New Kingdom is called that because it's still 2,000 years old. Like, you know, we're talking about, like, a really crazy scope of time, and I have no idea where, like, Black Adam was supposed to be from in that original story. Like, it was back there. Like, there were pyramids. Something, like, whatever. Anyway, but he arrives in 1945. He confronts the Shazamily, and they can't really beat him because he's exactly their match in terms of powers. Later versions will do stuff to explain why there's discrepancies on this one, but he's a perfect match at this point, and, like, they're all effectively unstoppable. So, like, an unstoppable thing against an immovable object, and, like, yeah, nothing really happens. So what ends up saving the day initially when this confrontation occurs is that Uncle Dudley, who is a character in the Captain Marvel mythos but is not really in Shazam. I think they make a reference to him in the most recent movie, but it's not like front and center. It's a silly thing. It's hard to properly explain. Uncle Dudley is a character who dresses up in a Captain Marvel costume but actually has no powers and just pretends to be part of the family. And they're all cool with it because they love him. But yes, exactly. Like, Superman's like, sure, buddy, you can travel with me. But so Uncle Dudley, Billy's Uncle Dudley, is like, yeah, you know, you can, like, we're all matched here because of you know that, and then he, like, stumbles over the name for the wizard a couple of times, and, like, Black Adam goes like, you idiot, it's Shazam, and then gets hit by lightning and turns into his mortal form of Teth Adam, and then, because he's been alive for thousands of years, but just preserved by being in his Black Adam form, his body then withers away to dust. And that's just it. That was it for Black Adam.
Oh, wow.
So he does a lot, this guy.
Well, yeah. So he flat out just, like, died right there. Was gone because this sort of also addressed, like, all right, so what's the deal with their powers? Like, how does it work? And it's like, all right, yeah, the Billy body, or, like, the Captain Marvel body will continue to function, but, like, Billy is still aging behind the scenes. Like, he's not, like, it's not Miracle Man where it's, like, literally on pause depending on which body's out there. So, like, this was the first time where they really kind of address, like, all right, what is Billy's age being slowed down by turning into Captain Marvel? Like, what's going on there? And yes, apparently it is, but nothing can happen to him in the interim. So it's not like Mighty Man where where he has to turn back into the normal form in order because that body still has to eat and, like, take, you know, like, still has to function. And if it's, like, stuck in the Mighty Man form, it's actually, like, withering away and dying in a different reality. So in this case, it's in stasis, but it is still aging normally. Remember, if you like the clip, after you're done liking and subscribing, check out certainpov.com, where you can find more episodes of the show, as well as a ton of other great shows.